Welcome back to the Art and Skill of Coaching podcast, where I teach you how to coach. So inside my advanced coach training program, the Art and Skill of Coaching, it is a certification. We don't just hand coaches more tools and strategies. We actually teach them how to use the tools. And one of the most powerful aspects of our program isn't just the content itself and the depth and quality of what's being provided, but the actual way that we structure the learning. I've talked about this on the podcast before, but inside of ASC, we use a structure that I developed way back in the day when I was teaching at the graduate level, and I call it learn, witness, practice. So learning, you get the training where I'm actually going to teach you the technique, the tool, or the framework. And then witness, you are going to watch me coach live. You are going to see the tool in action in real time and even experience it yourself so that you can understand what it feels like from the client perspective. And then practice, you go and actually try it with your peers. One of the biggest reasons our coaches graduate, not only with more knowledge, but with a feeling of certainty and confidence that is unshakable and allows them to create massive transformation for their clients. And the reason I'm setting up this podcast episode with sharing about the learn, witness, practice structure that we use inside of ASC is because part of the practice piece is not only for them to peer coach, but they also have to record those sessions, and then I go in and randomly audit them. And this is where I actually watch our coaches coach, and I'm able to give them individualized feedback on their strengths, their areas of improvement, and provide personalized tips for how they can coach even better. And here's the reason I do this. Coaching is a nuanced skill. You can't learn it from a textbook. You can read about theory all day, but being able to practice it is another thing. Again, you can memorize scripts and questions, but running a session, asking the right questions, and guiding a client through real stagnation, real reactivity, real lack of awareness, real blind spots, that's a different level. But it's also where the biggest breakthroughs actually happen. And I remember when I was being trained to be a therapist almost 15 years ago, which is crazy, we had to do a lot of things to make sure that we weren't just passing the exams and memorizing theory, but we're actually practicing good clinical skills. We had to record sessions. We had to script them out word for word. We even had supervisors sitting in on our sessions in the corner taking notes. And it was terrifying at first, to be honest, but it is also simultaneously where our deepest learning actually happened. Because having someone who's more experienced and skillful and knowledgeable and further along in their journey than you point out your blind spots and help you pivot and help you refine your skill, that is where true mastery actually begins. And I talk about this all the time. If you listen to this podcast, you know I am a big football fan, go Birds. But just like athletes watch tape and get feedback in real time during practice with their coaches watching them, great coaches also need practice under supervision. And many coach trainings miss this point. They'll give you the information, maybe even a few frameworks, but they don't actually provide supervised practice. There is no opportunity for individualized feedback or a way to help the coaches in the training program actually bridge the gap between theory and execution. And that's why so many coaches graduate and get certified, but still feel uncertain. And because of that, end up falling back on this supportive conversation instead of true transformational coaching. And that happens because of that lack of practice and feedback. And you're not alone if this is you. A lot of coaches end up defaulting to chit chat or cheerleading or handling the crisis of the week and end up losing direction and focus in the work, and there is no actual change agenda. Or they get stuck in giving advice or giving the answer instead of skillfully eliciting information and building awareness and facilitating growth. Another thing that I've seen happen with this lack of supervision is that a lot of coaches will end up jumping into premature problem solving, which creates short-term relief for the client, but not lasting transformation. And when that happens, clients might feel good, but they might not get the results that they signed up for. And not only does the client lose confidence, but the coach will lose their confidence as well. And unfortunately, the work never reaches the depth that it was capable of achieving. So today's going to be a really fun episode because what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a behind the scenes look into our coach certification program, particularly our audits. So I recently just did a round of audits for our coaches in there. And what I'm going to be doing is sharing with you the 3 biggest themes I saw and the feedback I provided to the coaches in that space. And the reason I picked these 3 is because they are probably things that you might be experiencing or have struggled with in the past. And I wanted to kind of just shed some awareness around them. This is not an exhaustive list, but here are the 3 biggest themes I saw in our most recent round of audits. And they were structure, eliciting versus inserting, and premature problem solving. And if that doesn't make sense, that's fine. I'm going to go into more depth one by one in a second, but those were the three biggest things I saw. So without further ado, let's go ahead and dive into the first one, which is structure. So I actually teach a scientifically based call structure that I encourage our coaches to use when they're coaching. I've actually talked about it on this podcast before. And what I'll do for you is I'll go ahead and throw the link to that show episode in the show notes if you want to listen to that as well. But what I did notice is that a lot of the coaches inside of ASC really did try to follow that call structure, but they got stuck in the beginning of it. Meaning, instead of just spending 5 to 10 minutes on celebrating wins, bridging the sessions, and setting an agenda, which again, if you don't know what that means, go back into the show notes, listen to that episode. It's only like 10 minutes, but I break down the call structure. What they end up doing is they spend the entire session there. They spend 30 to 60 minutes just catching up, just sharing wins, just celebrating or letting the client vent, and no change agenda was actually set. No session goals were actually agreed upon. And what ends up happening is that the session might feel supportive, but not transformational. And again, when there's no agenda, there's no direction, there's no focus. And unfortunately, a lot of times there ends up not being any deeper work or progress made. And this is a common mistake, even with certified coaches, which a lot of people inside of the art and skill of coaching are coming in with initial certifications, but they want more advanced tools and more depth. And this is why structure actually matters. It creates focus, direction, and protects the client's investment and ensures that that call is effective, because that's the true value of coaching. It's not making a client feel good, it's being effective, which is helping them achieve a result. So if you do not have any structure or format for your calls, it doesn't have to be mine, you can borrow from me, but it might be time to develop one or listen to that episode I threw in the show notes, okay? So the second theme I saw inside of the audits was something that I call eliciting versus inserting. And here's what this means. Great coaching isn't about giving advice, telling stories, or handing out information or recommendations, okay? That's inserting. That's telling a client what to do. Effective coaching is about eliciting. It's about using questions and frameworks and interventions that help the client actually uncover their own insights, their own motivation, their own answers, their own next steps. When the answer comes from them, it sticks. When it comes from you, the coach, it doesn't, okay? And I know this is so hard. This is actually one of the areas that I struggled with the most until I learned this skill set. The first few years I was a therapist, I had a little sticky on my desk that said, ask, don't tell. But unfortunately, again, this is one of those things that basic certifications do not teach. They don't monitor because they don't teach at this depth. They aren't aware of these psychological nuances that happen when you're engaging with people in communication. And that's why we actually take 6 weeks of training just to teach this thoroughly, this concept of eliciting and how to do that versus inserting. It is that important. The third thing I noticed across these audits, and this is the last one I'm going to cover today, and the reason I chose it is because it's so common, is that clients actually come into coaching oftentimes wanting quick relief. They want to feel better. They want to get the result. They've been trying on their own, and they're hiring you thinking that you're going to solve the issue for them. And a lot of coaches end up mistaking that urgency and that pressure for motivation. And so they jump right in, they skip the setup, and they rush to offer solutions. But without actually slowing down and accurately assessing and creating awareness and identifying and addressing the root issue, you end up just putting Band-Aids on broken bones. You cannot skip the setup in coaching, especially if you want to do deep coaching, which is another podcast episode that I have that I will throw in the show notes for you as well. But again, quick fixes feel good in the moment, but they do not last. So do not absorb your client's urgency and mistake it for motivation. Real coaching is about slowing down, digging deep, and helping clients create sustainable transformation, not just symptom relief. There are way more themes that came up on the audits, but these are the three that I've noticed not only a majority of the coaches in this cohort, but in past cohorts have also struggled with when they first entered the art and skill of coaching. Because we do more than one audit, and you usually are able to see the massive growth and transformation in their style and confidence and capability of coaching from audit 1 to audit 2. And again, I think that's because of the way our training is structured with this format of learn, witness, practice, and then receiving real feedback, right? Our coaches are able to graduate with not just new information, but a new ability to actually coach at a really deep level. So don't just celebrate, create structure, set an agenda, and focus on coaching, not just supporting. Don't insert, learn a skill set on how to elicit, and manage jumping into premature problem solving. You want to slow down, uncover the root, and stay focused on that. And if you want to master these advanced coaching skills with more personalized supervision and get your hands on the type of training that's actually going to make you feel certain in your coaching, that's exactly what we do inside of the Art and Skill of Coaching. It is a 6-month certification program and enrollment opens soon. The waitlist is now available though. You can find the link to join in the show notes. That way you never miss any important announcements or dates. And if you found this episode helpful, go ahead and like it, give us a 5-star review, share it, and don't forget to subscribe so you never miss another episode that's going to help you master the art and skill of coaching.